There was a point in time where the Amazing Digital Circus was seen as one of the best indie shows on YouTube. If you clicked on this video, statistically speaking, tadc needs no introduction. The show recently wrapped up its 9-episode run with a theatrical release, and the reviews are mixed at best. tadc's critical perception over the years has been on a bit of a downward spiral, to put it lightly. The show set up a dynamic cast of characters, each fighting their own personal demons, a story about finding value in stagnation and what it means to be human, and a mystery surrounding how they got in the circus and if they were ever going to make it back to their bodies and get back to their lives, assuming that they even wanted that. So of course the fans had high hopes that it was going to follow through. And with the way that the creator hyped up the ending to her show, it's pretty clear why people's expectations were set so high. So, were those expectations met? Let's talk about it. But before we get into that, a quick reminder that I recently got my Ko-Fi up and running, so if you'd like to support me, the link is down in the description. I also have commissions open, so if you're able to get one, I would really appreciate it. Admittedly, I do feel really bad about the recent hate train that Gooseworks has gotten. I don't like seeing a woman being slandered relentlessly, but then I remember that she probably wouldn't care to see a woman get hated on relentlessly, and I immediately lose all sympathy. But we're not going to discuss any of that nonsense here. Regardless, I don't really feel comfortable adding to any of the negative rhetoric, no matter how deserved it may be. So I'm going to try to approach this finale from as neutral a standpoint as I can.
Be gentle. I'll try.
What the fuck? In my opinion, the finale was okay. Very underwhelming, but with how the writing has been going for the past few episodes, it was kind of inevitable. I didn't hate it or even dislike it, but I feel like it falls apart for me the more I think about it. I've seen some people say that they expected more out of this finale, and I'm just like, why? Did we not watch the trailer and see the poster? I knew we weren't going to get any CNA lore or development from anybody aside from Jax. I didn't say anything at the time because I didn't want to be too negative, but secretly I knew exactly what we were getting. Now, whether you love or hate Jax, you have to admit it is an incredibly odd choice to have the finale of what was originally an ensemble show focus almost entirely on one character. And do not tell me in the comments that Jax was always the main character, because no, he was not. Take a look at any of the promotional material or trailers from 2023 and early 2024 and tell me that Jax was propped up as the second main character. It was always either Pomni at the center, or Pomni, Jax, and Ragatha as a trio, or hell, you could even make an argument for Pomni and Kane being the center of the show. But if the creator has to come out and tell you halfway through the show who the main characters are, that is either terrible writing or something changed somewhere in production. Indie or not, no other show could get away with that. Now, everyone and their mother has said that tadc was in desperate need of more episodes, and I of course agree, and in fact I would go so far as to say that if you changed nothing about tadc's plot, every single plot point is exactly the same, and literally all you do is add in 10 filler episodes, preferably towards the start before the Jax favoritism, the show automatically and exponentially improves in quality. Because more time spent with these characters will just naturally allow us to learn more information about them, which I feel like is the main issue people have with the low episode count. The hatred for filler episodes has got to end. You people don't hate filler, you hate bad filler. And Jesus Christ, if this show needed nothing else, it needed filler. I feel like tadc is one of the few shows on the planet that people would forgive having a few filler episodes, and it didn't take advantage of that. I chose to trust Gooseworks towards the beginning when it was originally announced that the show was going to be less than 10 episodes because I assumed that she had some kind of vision that only needed 9 episodes to be realized. And now I see that, no. This show needed 24 episodes at minimum. One of my hot takes about the show is that a 9-episode series should not have as much lore as tadc did, or at least not sprinkle the lore in the way that it did, knowing how little time it had to flesh it all out. I'm not saying that all this lore doesn't have to exist, but I just feel like this show didn't realize its main ideas and shafted certain characters, in part because there was just entirely too much going on. Many characters' arcs were completely wasted, especially Pomni, Ragatha, and Zubul, and that's really frustrating. The show had the opportunity to have interesting commentary on a myriad of ideas, but didn't really. Listen, everyone and their mother has talked about this whole, I can save him trope with Pomni. My thing is, tadc's audience is intended to be adults. We are far too grown to be watching this girl try to fix her ain't shit boyfriend. But okay, I understand that one of the show's takeaway messages is that the worst thing that you can do is make people feel like they're unloved. But as a character, Pomni still needs some kind of reason on why she's so stuck on Jack specifically, because she doesn't invest that kind of energy into anyone else. Otherwise, she just comes off as someone who sympathizes with an abuser, which makes her look stupid. My personal headcanon is that perhaps she knew someone outside the circus that is very similar to Jack's, and something bad happened to them. Pomni believes in her heart of hearts that she could have saved them if she'd done more to help, which is why she's too stubborn to give up on him. Another idea I had is that if you rewrite the show so that Pomni is the direct catalyst for all of the characters' development, then it would make sense as to why she's so stuck on Jax. Like, hey, I helped everyone else here. Why is it not working for this guy? I think that actually makes the idea of there are some people that just don't want to be saved a lot clearer. But in order to do that, the other characters have to get an adequate amount of attention, which they don't really. Like, I'm sorry, but Jax did nothing to deserve grace from any of these people. It's okay to hate people that are mean to you guys. I'm not falling for this propaganda. And I know that the Jax fans are gonna come back and say, oh, you just don't get his character, because that's what they've been saying on my other Jax criticism videos. Y'all, I am living through Jax's backstory right now in terms of what he said about his parents, except I didn't kill my mom. So I promise you, I am not misunderstanding shit. He's awful and irredeemable, and it is fine to write a character like that as long as the story knows, which it doesn't seem to. Now on to the Kane stuff. It all just felt like an afterthought in comparison. Like, it is baffling that the central conflict of Kane's character, which is him hurting the humans because he doesn't understand what they wanted or needed, was solved in 5 minutes after he scrolled through their Instagrams for a little bit. Not by talking to them, or thinking back how they reacted to every adventure, or considering why they requested certain things like being able to have sex. Not that I wanted Zubul to describe in detail why this is important to them. I mean, we know why. But Kane doesn't understand why physical intimacy and pleasure are important to humans in our romantic relationships. You know what I mean? For all he knows, Zubul just wants to add something random to the game that isn't even appropriate and has nothing to do with anything. So what about these people's social medias makes Kane understand free will that he didn't get from interacting with them? They expressed their grievances before he got deleted, but he never reflected on that, nor did he reflect on the torture sequence that he put them through. I don't even really have much to say on this point because I am genuinely so confused on why the writers chose to end Kane's character arc this way. Now, as for Soma theory, I actually don't have too big a problem with it. I wasn't terribly big on the theory side, but my question is, if Kane knew that they were brain scans, which I have every reason to believe that he did, why didn't he tell them? Because if Pomni's primary complaint from the very beginning was wanting to escape the circus, why not tell her that she's already living life outside the circus and she can't escape? Maybe it would have quelled her concerns, maybe it wouldn't have, but Kane really has no reason to keep this from them. Now, I do think that the Soma theory plot point was here from the very beginning. In the very first episode, we can see that the headset that Pomni used to put on is sitting on the desk outside the computer, so presumably her human self just took it off and put it down somewhere. But I fear that the execution was lackluster. One thing about me is that I always cry during finales. I don't like when things end, in general. That's just my personality. One single callback to an important moment in the series, or just play one of the main motifs a little bit slowly, and it's waterworks. The fact that this one couldn't get a single tear out of me after having watched it twice is very concerning. This whole finale just felt like another episode of the show, and that really sucks because tadc deserved a better send-off than this. It's really disappointing because tadc set itself up to be a really interesting short story, but ultimately fumbled the bag in my opinion. The most disappointing to me is the fact that they really didn't do much with the whole message of finding meaning in stagnation because, you know, I feel like a lot of people feel that way right now. I do. My life feels kind of meaningless right now. So, you know, this show's message would have been really nice had it been executed more thoughtfully. And you know what? That's okay. As I went back to rewatch the series for this video with all of my grievances in mind, I still enjoyed myself. Every episode as an individual episode has some pretty high highs. It's a huge mess when you put it all together, and the problematic messaging and misogynistic undertones will always bother me. However, I came into Digital Circus without many expectations, just looking to have fun, and you know what? I got that. Mostly. I don't think that the shitty finale takes away from the show as a whole, or at least not for me. I will most definitely be returning to the show again, especially those older episodes. Although in my previous TADC video, I did say that if they made Gangle and Zubul an official couple, then it would make up for all of the nonsense that Gooseworks has been putting us through, and that did happen, so I'm legally required to call this one a 9 out of 10. Could have been a 10 out of 10 if we got into C. Hello chat, I did not write an outro once again, but thank you guys so much for watching. I actually have a lot more grievances with this finale than I let on, but I wanted to just go over the main points that were bothering me, because number one, I wanted to get this out. I procrastinated on making this video. There were other things that I had wanted to address, but I think I'm gonna address those in future videos. Speaking of which, I would like to get monetized very soon. So if you guys could do me a favor and just go watch my videos while there's no ads on them, I would love that a lot, because the second that I can't put ads on them, I fear I will. I'm sorry, it has to be done. I have to leave my abusive household. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.